Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Saturday Morning D&D show. My name is Jordan with a silent PH in the middle, and I am joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Say hello, sir.
Hello, everybody. I have an EN in the middle, or maybe it's an LU in the middle.
Or something.
IR, somewhere in there is the middle.
Welcome to our live show. Everybody who's live here, thank you so much for joining us live on Twitch and on YouTube. We record every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, and we just talk about Dungeons & Dragons, role-playing games, the games we're currently playing, the news of our hobby, and all of that other fun stuff. And I'm realizing right this minute, I'm actually not on Twitch, so I can't see the chat. So let's hop over there and see what's going on. Oh, an advertisement. That's interesting. That's cool.
You need that.
So there's a couple of things going on in the news. Actually, we have a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you, Lucian, about campaign settings.
Yes.
For the game that we call Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I have a friend. She might be watching or she might be listening to this later. That we used to play MMOs back in the day together, and she's now just discovering D&D. And so she found out about my channel, and she started sending me messages, and so we've been chatting back and forth, and she's very excited. She doesn't really know. She's like, I was like, well, what class are you playing? And she's like, I don't know. I rolled some dice and I hit something. It was amazing. And like, she just is like, loves it so much. Yeah. But I was trying to tell her about campaign settings, and she was trying to wrap her brain around it. Thinking it's like, well, doesn't like Wizards of the Coast have this, like, don't they own D&D? Like, how can you make a D&D setting? Like, she was really confused by that. And I was trying to explain it that it's like, well, they own the mechanics and they do own some settings. Like, they own the Forgotten Realms, and you can't necessarily, like, you know, publish something in the Forgotten Realms without Wizards of the Coast approval through like the DMSGuild or something. But there's so many, like I just did, not just, but a while ago I did some videos on the Scarred Lands, which is a campaign setting for 3.5 D&D, and now it's been updated for 5th edition. All about like a not a post-apocalyptic world, but almost, and like in Ravage, and the gods in that world are all Greek gods, and the gods versus the Titans, and there's all these really things. But do you have a favorite campaign setting that you like to run around in or steal from, or do you like to make your own? Because that's another thing that gamers do. It's very typical for us to steal what we enjoy and build our own kind of thing.
Yeah. My love for Forgotten Realms is pretty strong. I think it's the connection to it is really good, and it's the one I probably know the most of. I definitely love the idea of making my own or tweaking based on some weird parameters that I want to throw in, like a perpetually dark world, or and then try to figure out how did that affect all the things that went on, or maybe there's a small amount of technology in the world. So then almost you get like an Eberron-y kind of feel. But there's a lot of these third-party groups putting out these campaign settings, like you said, Scarred Lands, and I saw. I have one that's going to be a more of a Japanese style one called Kyoto campaign. And that one's going to be really cool. I'm waiting for that Kickstarter to come in. And I just keep seeing more and more of them from these different companies, and they all sound kind of interesting, and they all have their own little tweak, and they have these people that you can tell have a lot of passion behind, their world. Yeah, I'm into that, but I love Greyhawk too. Greyhawk is probably still in my heart. Yeah, my favorite. So what about you? I mean, because you talk a lot about Eberron, you talk a lot about, your Forgotten Realms channel, so that makes sense. Is it your favorite, though?
I think it is. Like, I like that the Forgotten Realms has so much history to it. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, is that there is all this, like, established lore and history that a lot of players are like, well, especially if you have players that have read a lot of the novels, it can get frustrating when you're like, well, I want I don't know, the leader of Neverwinter to be this guy rather than Lord Neverember. And you'll have the person at the table that's like, excuse me, it's supposed to be this. And you're like, well, it's kind of my game. I get to change it how I want. In my view, that's why the Realms is so cool, because I think that as a DM, you can take all of that and keep what you want and still run a game in the Forgotten Realms. It can still feel like the Forgotten Realms, even if I want to take the goddess Mystra and throw her out the window and erase her entire history and replace her with the Raven Queen.
Yeah.
It still is Forgotten Realms. It's just my version of it because I like that. And so the number one critique of the Forgotten Realms, like why people don't like it, is actually why I really like it. I don't think you have to play it like Wizards of the Coast is handing it to you. And I don't think Wizards of the Coast is intending that. Now, other game systems have other really cool things, like Eberron is really, or not game systems, but campaign settings. Like Eberron is really cool, and I like that Eberron's timeline doesn't change. I think that's really fun. So you could play, like you kind of pick, like I want to play like a year after the war, or I want to play like during the war, or I want to play after the cataclysmic event, the Day of Mourning. I want to play all this other stuff. And that has its own appeal in comparison to Forgotten Realms that has like a huge timeline where you're like, I want to like play in this chunk of time, or I want to do this or something. So I don't know, really, really interesting stuff. It's kind of weird or sad to me that Wizards of the Coast is getting away from the big epic events like the Time of Troubles or the Spell Plague, because they want to make it more, I don't know, accessible for people, I guess. But I thought that was really cool. The reason I bring this up is because Monte Cook Games, I'm a big fan of Monte Cook Games, obviously, here at the channel. Jordan loves Invisible Sun. You love the Numenera and the Cypher system.
And they're original designers of D&D, so it's not like
so Monte
they were part of Wizards of the Coast.
Monte Cook was part of Wizards of the Coast. He created Planescape, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So anyway, Monte Cook Games, they just announced that they're releasing a campaign setting for D&D 5th edition and the Cypher system. So it's going to be 2 books. You can buy this and play it in either, which I thought was really cool. And it makes sense. They want to sell the book for the most popular role-playing game out there, and they also want to sell the book for their proprietary
most popular
stuff.
game.
So it makes sense. But going through their announcement here, they have made this campaign setting, and I want to say it's called Patolis.
I think the P is silent. I think it's just
the P is silent.
The P is silent. Have you ever heard of something
like that? I know
all
about that, and I totally think so. It's Tolis, I guess. Anyway.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, could be wrong. But when Monty was working for Wizards of the Coast, designing 3rd edition and doing a bunch of stuff, he was running a game with Wizards of the Coast elites. And it was a world that he designed himself with the input of his players that were these, like, you know, super high up there. Or I say high up there, but just like designers of Wizards of the Coast, for Wizards of the Coast. And he made this 672 page book.
Yeah, I have it. It's enormous.
You have it? Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So this huge book, and blah blah blah. My microphone is, I'm eating it. It's not good. And it's kind of like, from what I'm reading, I didn't know much about it, but from what I'm reading, it's like a city, like this like towered mega city.
Yeah.
So something that could be really cool, that like you could take this campaign setting.
Think Ravnica.
Yeah. And plop little sections of it or the whole thing in your own world. And I really like that. So I don't know, long story short, I've very much been enjoying Monte Cook as a designer. In his games, the worlds he's creating, things like that. So this super piqued my interest, and I like that they're revising it for 5th edition, for Cypher system. That's really cool too. Might get a lot of people into both, where they're like, oh, like I like this world. Should we play this world in another system? Like that's kind of cool.
I'm definitely picking it up. This is a pickup for me.
So Tolis, it's coming. They're doing a Kickstarter at some point. If you want to be notified for the Kickstarter, you should Google, and they've got like an email you can put down. But I'm sure it'll be all over social media and things like that. But yeah, I just am really excited for this, and it makes me, I don't know, it just makes me really happy. Like we have Critical Role coming out with their campaign setting book, and we have this coming out, and like again, I'm going to go back to the Scarred Lands, and Kobold Press has Midgard, and like all these people are doing really, really cool things that us as players can steal what we want and make it work. And
there's a bunch of them on Drive-Thru RPG, real full fleshed out actual books. You can even buy them in print on different 5e settings. There is a large amount of people building campaign settings for 5e. So if you haven't found like what your taste is right now, you don't like the stuff Wizards is putting out, you don't like, some of those other things, there's going to be somebody who's putting something out that you like and can and latch onto. And the rules are there, or the tradition is there to throw all that stuff out and say, you know what, I can do it. I'm just going to do it the way I want it. And that's perfectly fine too. So that's what I love about it. It's a cool game.
No, it is. And so, I was just really excited for this. Really excited for this. I think it's, I just, the art and stuff looks so cool. It's like this spired
Monty
castle
Cook art stuff is good.
Anyway,
I love their books.
I just keep looking at this website and it's really good. So that's coming out in the news. That Kickstarter is going to happen at some point, and it's going to be like a definite
I'll be on
back
it
for me. Like
you'll see it on my Twitter, because the minute I see it, I'll be backing it.
Well, even that Money Cook, they had a Kickstarter like a year ago maybe for Numenera in Dungeons and Dragons 5e, and I backed that because I thought that was really cool. I don't necessarily think if I want to play Numenera, I'll probably use the Numenera system. The Cypher system, but I was very curious about sci-fi magic items and armor and things like that in my game. Because I want to run this Spelljammer 5e game. It's going to happen at some point.
It will happen.
I want to do it so bad. And that book is going to help me a lot, I think. Lasers. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Other things in the news. This isn't a secret, but it's kind of now announced public knowledge. We knew that Wizards of the Coast was making a game studio, and they were grabbing really good developers and directors and stuff. And I want to say it's not, they have the Montreal one, and then I think they have one in Texas, in Austin.
That's the new one. Yeah, the new one is in Austin.
So that's now has a name. It's Archetype Entertainment. And they are, let me open this so I have the names right.
I pronounce it Archetype.
Archetype? Okay. Yeah, again.
It's like Covenant of the Ark. Ark of the Covenant.
Ark of the Covenant. Archetype Entertainment. And a lot of their employees worked for BioWare, which is really cool. So
I love
Baldur's Gate 2, Neverwinter Nights, Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age Origins, lots of Mass Effect, lots of really cool stuff. And this guy's going to be the head of the studio, and they're working on D&D, Magic the Gathering games. What those exactly are, we're not entirely sure. And this isn't, I don't think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be this company. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is the Montreal company. Anyway, but they have a name now, and it was really cool to see all these BioWare people that Jordan remembers from his youth that was like, oh, you worked on Neverwinter Nights, like that. I love that game so much. And we've talked about this before, but it is interesting that Wizards of the Coast is a company. They want to make money. They can only make so much money with books, but they have these properties that they're like, well, why don't we make video games? Or why don't we license it out here? Or I don't know, Gale Force 9 will let you have this properties to make a bunch of stuff. And so they have this intellectual property that they're giving out to make stuff. I don't know. Knights of the Old Republic is one of the coolest games that has ever been made. And I'm just really excited. So
I like BioWare as a company. I've always liked their devs. So if they've got some of the good talent from there, I would love a Mass Effect. Like if they said, because just like we have with Pathfinder, you have Pathfinder and Starfinder, right? So you got sci-fi covered, you got fantasy covered. And if D&D said, Wizards of the Coast said, well, we want fantasy covered, but we need a sci-fi cover. If they went the Mass Effect route or something very similar to that, wow, I'd be in heaven, because that is one of my favorite gaming series to just sit there and play as an RPG on the computer. And I love the storylines of that.
Yeah. And I'm remembering that they wanted to make new intellectual property. That was one of the goals of this game company. And apparently their first game is going to be a multi-platform role-playing game. And this is, quote, set in an all-new science fiction universe that will send players on a story-driven epic where choices they make have real consequences on how their story unfolds.
Imagine that.
A property that is, it's going to be Mass Effect, it's going to be all those other things, but it's a property that is not D&D or Magic the Gathering.
Which is cool.
Which is really cool. And you take something like that and it becomes really popular, and you start getting like role-playing versions of it, and like, I don't mean, they know how to do it. And so I don't know. I'm really curious about all this. It's going to be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Really
And I
curious.
feel like we're in the times of remakes and redos
Yes.
and sequels and capitalizing on
Nostalgia.
properties that we already own, IPs that we already own. And every now and then we're only getting the sprinkle of something new that's not been done before. It seems like that's kind of gone by the wayside, and it's more popular to just kind of bring back the other stuff. But can't wait till that kind of dies out as a trend, and we get back to everybody's building these brand new IPs that nobody's heard of, and we get a big slew of those.
And those can be popular.
If that's the route they're going, that'd be great.
I mean, Blizzard has been sitting on World of Warcraft and Diablo and StarCraft for so long, and those are great. Yeah. But then they come out of nowhere. Well, they come out of nowhere with Overwatch. Yeah. And it's like brand new characters. They've all got a new history. It's a new style of game, all this other stuff. And I remember when that came out, a lot of people were like, well, it's not Diablo, blah, blah, blah. It's not this. But like it's taken the world by storm, and it is now a really popular franchise in its own, and where they could do total spin-offs of that thing. Like they could take the Overwatch characters and, I don't know, Overwatch chess, and you play chess with Overwatch characters. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how you have to take those leap of faiths as a company, and you can't just constantly, well, people know the Diablo franchise, let's make another Diablo game kind of thing.
Are we going to get a Diablo 9? Are we going to get a Diablo 13? Or at some point, are we just, okay, those, and don't get me wrong, I love Diablo, and if we get to Diablo 13, I'm playing it. I'm playing them all. They're working on Diablo 4 now. It's happening right this minute. I'm with that, but I love the idea of new IPs. Like when stuff comes out of nowhere, like there was the game last year that was the kind of Viking / nomadic girl protagonist who was fighting sci-fi robot dinosaurs. Super popular game last year or the year before. I'm forgetting the name of it at the top of my head, but that was like, that just come out of nowhere. And when you watch some of the videos and the previews of that, you're like, okay, whoever imagined this was super cool, because like all the dinosaur creatures are these weird cybernetic versions or robot versions that somehow took these shapes and forms and then hunted humanity to near extinction at some point. And I'm just like, oh, that's so good. And it's just, I love it. So I love seeing new stuff. When Mass Effect hit for the first time, that just blew me away. That was such a good, just out of nowhere IP. So, but there's so many good games everywhere. It's not just in the tabletop role playing. Like if you go to Steam and you see the games that are coming out daily, and you'll find little RPGs, you'll find your little, like the game you've been playing recently. What was the name of that?
Hobbs?
Yeah, Hobbs. Yeah. I mean, just out of nowhere, cool art style to it. No Man's Sky. Just all these things that just come out of nowhere. I love it. I love seeing the brand new stuff that gives you more inspiration. You didn't even know you wanted it, and then you saw it, and you're like, now I want it. So very cool.
Horizon Zero Dawn, is that what you're thinking of?
That's it. Good job, chat. Good job, chat. Horizon Zero Dawn. Just watch some of the trailers of that, and they're so evocative and cool. Even if you haven't played the game, and from all accounts, I haven't played it yet, but the game is super cool.
Yeah.
I did just buy Spider-Man on my PlayStation 4, and that was really fun swinging through the total segue, swinging through the city of New York with that. I was like, oh my God, this is really good.
Yeah, I love the Spider-Man.
But Horizon Zero Dawn is what I was talking about.
That's awesome. So new video games, new Wizards of the Coast stuff. We're not like, we're a D&D guy. We're not, or podcast. We're not like a Wizards of the Coast podcast, but we're both gamers, like board, video, RPG kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm super interested where this is going.
I'm excited to see what they put out.
Yeah. What else is going on in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, sir?
Well, I saw a little bit over the week, and again, I was super busy this week, so I didn't get to dive in as much. I got to spend my week in Denver, which was nice, and I am finally back home for all the Denver fans. It did snow while I was there, and so I blamed it on me because it's snowing when I got back here. So the Michigan guy brought snow to Denver. But I did see that there is, for those of you who who are more interested in Wildmount than I know it appears that me or Jordan have been interested in it in the last two. We're not knocking it. If you guys love it, it's great.
Oh
We
no,
get
and
it.
I'm a firm.
And
Yeah.
I'm great. You know, it's great that you're going to play in it. But if you want to see somebody playing in the campaign, obviously, I guess there's Critical Role, so that'd be one good way you could do it. But if you're looking for a different version of it, or see how somebody else is going to try to take that world and run with it, there is one on D&D Beyond right now, being done by Todd Kendrick, and I believe it's called Heroes of the Mist. But their characters are going to this Wildmount world, so he's pivoted his group to Wildmount. Now I don't know if they're the same characters because I haven't watched all of his stuff, but it looked like the same cast that I saw before. So Walters and Obo Crazy and Jen and Adam is there. And so if you're into that, you want to see somebody else run a game in Wildmount that's not Matt Mercer, that might be a good look at it over on the D&D Beyond. And D&D Beyond had a lot of videos this past a couple of weeks, over the last 2 to 3 weeks on Wildmount stuff. So if you're looking for more Wildmount information, there was also a Lore You Should Know with Chris Perkins. If you want to know more about the gods and geography of Wildmount, I've not watched it, but I did see that it was out there. It's on my queue to go through and watch. I'll probably watch it a little bit later today and see what that's all about. I figured Jordan would be into that because he's our lore aficionado of all things.
The Lore You Should Knows have always been really fun because, again, like I like to steal little bits, and I want to make my own campaign setting at some point. And so I'm like, kind of, I like that idea. And so, yeah. We
had a little bit more from Dragon Plus Live, which is Bart Carroll talking with Jeremy Crawford. And they touch base on a few more things of the subclasses, but they do talk about a few other things in there. I'm halfway through that one, and it's pretty good. They've got some good discussions in there about can you as a warlock have a pact with a god, or are you just a cleric at that point? And they have a little cool discussion about that.
Oh, that's interesting.
They have a cool discussion about the rules and where they were going with some of those things, and it's pretty fun. I always like watching those two talk about. So I'll watch Jeremy Crawford talk about Dungeons and Dragons 24/7. I don't know what it is about the way he thinks and he articulates what they're thinking when they're creating things, and the way he tells stories, and the way I could watch Jeremy all day long. I don't know. I just really like listening to him.
Yeah.
So those are the videos that I saw that are out there. If you're missing anything or you feel like you want to get some Wizards of the Coast D&D knowledge, those are the things. I did send Bart, I haven't looked it up yet. I sent Bart Carroll a tweet because I have not seen the Dragon Plus issue for January. And here we are, February 1st. So I don't know if they're going to be a month after, like the January issue actually comes out in February, and then the February issue actually comes out in March. Maybe that's how it works. Or maybe January was too much holiday stuff, so they didn't get one out. Or maybe it's late, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they're changing something. I'll see if he hasn't answered my tweet yet, but I'm sure he will because he's usually pretty responsive.
Oh, cool.
So that was about the news that I saw. There's lots more Kickstarters about to kick off again. I've been seeing some things that say, keep an eye on these Kickstarters, keep an eye on these Kickstarters. So I can't wait to get into I got several have come in over the last probably 2 or 3 months, and I'm all ready for the next wave of Kickstarters that I'm going to go ahead and help get done, because I just love the idea that me throwing my $40 or $50 in helps them create a game, helps them create their dream, which is super cool. Which one day I'm hoping me and Jordan get to do something.
I would like to do
down in the future, do something cool.
I keep thinking about this campaign setting, or we even we wanted to make like a magic item generating table. And I want to, and then like, why not combine those and try to make like a cool book and do a Matt Colville and get $1 million Kickstarter? That'd be really awesome. Speaking of Kickstarter,
or just to get something published. I love the idea that we would have a book that has some good artwork in it, that's laid out by a professional, that we put our sweat into. And if I can just have it sitting on my shelf, jeez.
Oh, sweaty book. Oh, man.
That's the dream. Our sweat and blood. We'll mix those two things together. Yeah, great.
I just got an email this morning because Kickstarter I backed just finished. It got funded. You probably have heard of it. The Adventurers Tarot. Yeah. And this was a fantasy-themed card tarot deck for use with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games. The art is phenomenal. These cards look amazing. I bought 2 packages because
because you'd been talking about a kind of a Terra deck.
Yeah, I want to do like I want to be able to, I don't know, like in Ravenloft, in Curse of Strahd, they let you do a pseudo kind of fortune telling, and then that fortune telling hides items within the adventure that you need to complete the adventure. So you could hypothetically replay Strahd and all this other stuff. But I don't know this, and I think they're going to make some mechanics that go along with it, but I'm really excited for that. I've got a couple other Kickstarters that are finishing up, so I should get some books here in the next like 3 months or so, which is really exciting. But yeah, and it's a new year, so I feel like we always get new Kickstarters around this time. So lots of stuff happening. Really, really cool things are going on. So excited for the Dungeons and Dragons.
Can't wait. There's going to be lots of it.
Which brings us to our next section of the show. Lucian's favorite section of the show.
Yes, and
Bardic
Jordan
inspiration.
has been dragged into this kicking and screaming.
Kicking and screaming. Bardic inspiration. What has inspired you this week? What do you want to talk about?
There's the idea, the kernel of the idea that I keep playing around in my head, and it's obviously based off of, I've been reading a book that has something similar, but it also harkens back to a dungeon master that I played with quite often. One of my favorite dungeon masters, a good friend of mine, who to me has been the best dungeon master I ever got to play with. Like if I was going to say, who was my best dungeon master?
Jordan.
It was him. It was this guy.
Yeah,
and
me. Gotcha.
Yeah, it was him. And I remember a campaign he had set up that happened once one of our characters made a dwarf, and his backstory was about he's a long lost heir to a dwarven city that has been taken over. It's no longer part of the dwarven kingdom. It's overrun. It was lost hundreds and thousands of years ago. And he was writing his backstory up about his family always have wanted to go back and retake this dwarven city. Like it was just their goal in life to bring it back to life. And in this book I'm reading, they're running away from the bad guys through this lost dwarven city. So that brought those memories back up. So the idea is, my kernel, my bardic inspiration is this idea of what about running a campaign where you sit your players down and say, at least one of you has ties to a lost dwarven city, and you have just finally found out like the location of it. You found out that an entrance has been opened, and are you ready to go back and take this city back? Almost like one of the most famous lost dwarven city stories, basically, The Hobbit, which is the whole thing where they're going back to where Smaug has taken over everything, spoilers, and the dwarves want their city back. Smaug has taken that city and they want their city back. And if they could get that city back, how great would that be? They could bring it back to prominence. So this idea that you could run a campaign that has all the obstacles that are going to be in the way of the players and all the things that they're going to have to do to start trying to clean the dwarven city out, and how far does it go down, and what was the reason it got overtaken in the first place? Why did all these other ones able to hold but this one wasn't? And what was the thing that took it over? You can play around with, is it a big dragon, or is it huge goblin tribes, or is it like the Mines of Moria kind of thing? So that, I just feel like that has a really good kernel, a really good strong basis for a good long 1 to 2 year campaign that you could really dive into. And you could then really incorporate a lot of the Strongholds and Followers stuff. You could, Kingdoms and Warfare book you could get from Matt Kovo could work into that, because once you start reopening the city, well, then the factions around you are either going to want to ally with you or crush you before you do it, because they don't want you to become a power in the world. So you get that whole kind of diplomacy and dynamic going towards the higher levels you go up. So it felt like a strong kernel, a strong starting point for a campaign where the party has a unified goal of, we want to clear or bring back this lost city. And it could be any really lost city, I guess, but I was just thinking of a dwarven underground city that would be a cool, very D&D, very heavy D&D kind of idea. So
no, I've always wanted to run I've always wanted to run, and we've talked about this before, but like an all dwarf campaign.
Yeah.
Or like, and then have their, or just anything like all halflings or all this or all tieflings. But the all dwarven campaign, I really like the idea of solving dwarf problems.
Yeah.
And it's not like we have to save the world, we have to do all this other stuff. It's like, no, nobody really cares about this ancient dwarven city that was taken over by a dragon. But you're right. Every single time I think about doing this and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And I start writing things down. I'm like, oh, this is The Hobbit. I did it again. I wrote The Hobbit. Dang it.
Yeah.
Dang it. But I like that idea a lot of problems that are and you could do this with a regular adventuring party, but like, I guess Saltmarsh is a great thing of this, where you have this adventuring party, but the problems are Saltmarsh problems, and they have to solve the Saltmarsh problems. And I like smaller, focused stories like that.
Geographic based.
Yeah, geographic based kind of a thing.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about running around the world and doing all this other stuff. And honestly, that's my new campaign that's going to start on February 19th. That is not what I'm doing. Like, it's going to be big, large problems that they all have to do. And I'm trying to figure out how to tie all these adventurers into, like, why would they care about saving the world? You know,
Yeah.
and that's almost more difficult than saying, no, you're all dwarves and you want to reclaim your homeland. Like, or no, you're all part of Neverwinter, and you want to help the Lord of Neverwinter. He wants to pay you to do this thing. And Saltmarsh was like that. Like, you guys are invested in Saltmarsh and things like that. So it's funny. Like, we have these grandiose visions of like, I want to go all these, but it's almost harder for you to tie people in. So.
Yeah. Or even, what about if you only ran this campaign, because you know it's going to kind of be Hobbitish anyways, but you talk to each of the players, they're all brand new to D&D, and they never watched The Hobbit. So they don't know any of it. I think that'd be super cool.
Do they live in Antarctica or something? Like,
well,
I don't know.
There's lots of people that haven't watched Lord of the Rings.
What? That's ridiculous.
You're a boomer now. That's the problem. It's all these young kids growing up. That's an old movie.
Oh man, I'm gonna watch The Hobbit today. That sounds like a great idea.
It is. I just rewatched it the other day. It was really good.
Are we talking about the animated Hobbit though?
No, I watched the newer. I actually started rereading The Hobbit just not too long ago, and it's pretty good.
No, I love the animated Hobbit a lot. The Peter Jackson ones were fine, but like that one, I guess, has nostalgia. Going back to nostalgia and people remaking things, like that has a special place in my heart, and I really love it. Mm-hmm. I had a couple of bardic inspirations.
Yeah, what is your bardic inspiration this week? And
I'm going to throw this out here. It's okay if you don't have an answer, but what classes are missing from Dungeons and Dragons? Like, think about a Pokemon class. Like, you want like a fight with your pets kind of thing?
I want a better, more robust pet class, summoner class.
That's actually
not one that bogs the game down, one that keeps the game moving, but one that has a lot of variety, like a lot of choices for you to make to say, oh, I want to do this, and a lot of opportunity for you to capture or create or upgrade or modify or get new things as you find them, and then they can fight next to you, and it doesn't overwhelm the game in any way, and there's a reason that it all works out and it works mechanically. I want that. I want a really cool summoner / pet class. And I know everybody says Beastmaster and all that, but it's not. That's like one version of a pet class, but that I want a more wide ranging. I want, just crazy.
And the Artificer has their support utility creatures. I
like it.
And
yep,
they did a good job of that.
My stopover.
But you're right. I've also wanted a puppeteering class where your pet is this puppet that you manufacture and build. And there was something online. Somebody made like a puppet master class where not only could you control your puppet and do cool things, but you could also like attach magical threads to a creature and move them. So it was very much like a control kind of class where you could move enemies out of the way or halt their actions. I'm keep doing this because that's my puppet string hands. But I really liked that, and I've always wanted something like a puppet class. I thought that would be really cool to have. But you're right. When we just played Acquisitions Incorporate. Well, not just. This was 2 weeks ago. We haven't played in a while. But our druid summoned like 5 wolves, and the whole game just went like, yeah, and like, okay, we got to roll for all these wolves. How much hit points do they have? What's going on? And you're right. Like when the druid summoning aspect comes into play, it slows the game down a lot, or combat, I should say. Yeah. And it would be cool if they, and the Artificer is a good push in the right direction, but you're right. I agree with you. That is also a class that I am missing. I like that class a lot.
But I think you had something in mind when you asked the question.
Very true. So. But I wanted to get your input. I want I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. I played Final Fantasy through all of my youth, and I love the games a whole bunch. And there's a class in the Final Fantasy game series called the Blue Mage. And I love Blue Mages because they learn magic that enemies can do. And so I was thinking, like, that is a class that has not been in Dungeons & Dragons before. And I want it to.
Well, what is a blue mage then? Tell us, for those of us that are not Final Fantasy aficionados.
Well, so blue magic is monster magic. So
monster magic.
A monster's attack. So for example, you have cactars. They're little cactus creatures, and they do an attack on you called Thousand Needles, where they throw 1,000 needles at you. You as a blue mage, when you get hit by this, can have it's like, I don't know, like a 30 or 40% chance to learn said attack. And then when you learn it, you can then equip it and cast it or all this other stuff.
Nice.
So how many unique attacks do monsters have in D&D? And I'm trying to think,
because they have to compete with player characters.
They do. So for example, actually, I want to look it up. I want to look this up.
We're going to the
D&D
table.
Beyond right now. Water Elemental is a good one to do.
Yeah, I love elementals.
So if you could, Whelm. And Whelm is on a recharge of 4 to 6. So you roll a d6 every time you see if it recharges. Each creature makes a DC 15 strength saving throw. On a failure, they take 2d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage. If it is large or smaller, it is also grappled by this creature. And because you kind of like take it in.
You're consumed. Yeah.
You're consumed. So let's say a water elemental uses this on your blue mage D&D class. And then you roll percentile die after he uses his attack on you, and you've learned the ability.
Cool.
And I got thinking that you could equip spells like armor.
Yeah.
So I have these 8 spells that I've learned from monsters, but I only have so much room to equip certain amounts. And when you equip them, you know them and you can use them, but after they're used, they're on a cooldown and you have to roll that d6 or whatever to see if they recharge so you can use them again. And that seems really fun to me because you're still yourself. You're still your character with your swords and things like that. It's not like the druid where you change into an elemental and you get their druidy powers, or you get the elemental's powers for a while and temporary hit points. I like that you just kind of, the attacks that you have are things that you've learned from monsters.
And what I like about what you just said, because now you have me super interested, I'm going to have to go back and play some Final Fantasy. They have their Final Fantasy Online MMO too, that I've heard is really good.
Oh,
but
14? Yeah.
Back to what you've said, that really interests me. It makes that player want to get hit by something.
Yes.
So that they can get the chance to maybe grab that thing. So that's a very interesting thing. I like that dynamic. I like the idea. Am I going to sit in the back and not do that because I'm kind of fragile? I don't have a lot of hit points, but I can use my abilities. Or do I get up there so I can try to get this cool abilities at some point?
Yeah, and I don't know, like, I think that's something you could work into D&D really well because every monster attack, you would just have to take those attacks and be like, okay, how powerful is this? And for some reason, I'm thinking of blocks. Like you have, let's say, 6 blocks. And this Whelm spell costs 3 blocks. So the more powerful the spell, the more blocks it takes, and
that helps you balance
the less
everything.
variety of spells you have. But you might have one real strong spell and like one weak one, or you could have like 5 weak spells and something like that. And I like that. I like that idea. So you could have like a variety of stuff, or you could have, and maybe on a long rest you can change them out just like a wizard or something. But they don't cost they don't cost spell slots. They don't cost that. Like it's totally a recharge mechanic. And so that's like just being lucky, like you go into a fight and you use this cool ability and you're like, all right, recharge. I guess all of your stuff would come back on a short rest, kind of like a warlock. So you might have to limit it in some way. There's testing, but man, I like this idea, and you could implement it well. I think it'd be really fun.
I like it.
I like blue mages a lot. I played a blue mage in Final Fantasy 11. It was super fun. Final Fantasy 5 has blue mages. They're just really fun creatures.
I know I played Final Fantasy, but I don't remember all of that stuff. Are there other color mages? Are there red mages?
There are red mages, black mages, and white mages. Yes.
Oh, now I want to know all about them. We need a Final Fantasy D&D game is what I'm hearing, Jordan.
I think there's like a fan-based one out there, but yeah. White mages are healing magic, so that would be a cleric. Black mages are offensive magic, so that'd be a wizard. And red mages are a combination of both. They never get really high healing spells, and they never get really high damaging spells, but they're able to do both. And then blue mages learn from monsters. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I want it. I want to see that subclass out on the DM's Guild. That would be really
fun. I want to make that.
Maybe it is. Maybe it already is.
Haven't even looked it up. There's somebody out there that's made it.
Yeah.
But that was my idea. Is I want that class. I think that would be really fun.
Isn't this a fun segment of our show?
It's so good. It's so good. And tomorrow is a football holiday. I don't know if you know this.
It is. The footballs are playing. Yes.
The footballs are playing. I think there's a sports ball team that is like it's like 40 plus 9 ers or something. I'm not sure. And they're fighting another sports ball team. The two of them are going to clash on this like epic battlefield. It's kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a coliseum of sorts.
A pitch.
Yeah. And they're going to throw their baseballs at some lacrosse rackets and catch them and go back and forth. It is the Super Bowl. So my D&D game is canceled because my players like
you're all
the Super Bowl
fans.
and I don't care for the Super Bowl, but that is fine. Like I might watch it. I don't know. But we had to cancel D&D because they all want to watch the Super Bowl. So it got me thinking, we always have these funny games where you have like a Halloween themed game or a Christmas themed game. You do these funny themed games. You should have a Super Bowl themed game where you fight the Superb Owl. And the Superb Owl has armor and he chucks footballs at you. And I don't know.
It's a pun game.
It's a pun game. I didn't super flesh this out, but I like the idea of fighting a superb owl.
A superb owl.
And it like tackles you and grapples.
That's like above a dire owl.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You've got owl, you've got owl bear, you've got dire owl bear.
Yeah.
You've got the superb owl.
I love it.
With footballs. Really funny.
You could play a D&D game where your players have been drafted into a sporting event of some sort. And you could play some weird conglomeration of rules you come up with that's like a rugby / baseball, basketball, football, hockey, whatever. Because they do Blood Bowl in the Warhammer universe. And that is very much a gladiator sports game inside a fantasy game called Blood Bowl, which is pretty cool. So you could definitely do it in D&D.
That'd be fun. That's my bardic inspiration. Blue Mage and the Superb Owl. Awesome. But we usually talk about whatever games we're playing because we like to play games. Lucian, what are you playing? What did you play this week?
Well, what I played this week was Lucian's first day at work week. It was such a fun
Denver, Colorado.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great modern day setting game. I role played a software technician and it was really cool. No, I had a really busy week in Denver all week. and we were going out with the team every night, and I was getting back late. And so I did not get any single Dungeons and Dragons in at all this week.
All right, flip
but
over.
I'm
hopeful. Done. Goodbye.
But I am hopeful that this week, Wednesday, is the finale for my Tomb of Annihilation campaign. So we're going to get to the finale of that. We're going to find out what's going on. We're going to answer all the questions. We're going to live or die, be heroes or be zeros.
Do you know any spoilers? Do you know anything about this? No, I don't. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. I have to watch this.
I'm going to experience it as it happens. And then the other exciting part of that is we've already started deciding on our next campaign, which is Dragon Heist. Yeah. Waterdeep, and we've already started our characters. We've already started talking about that. So we're in this really cool excitement of we're happy we're about to be at a finale. We're happy that we're about to start up some new characters and a new campaign. And I can't wait to see how this all unravels, and it's fun. But it is true, like you said, I did not get to do anything this week. So we have to rely on what did Jordan do? He better picked up the ball and played some D&D.
Yeah, I didn't play anything.
Show's over, guys.
Show's over. Goodbye. Well, thank you so much for coming.
102 is as far as we got. Episode 102.
People were sick, and I've got a baby, and I'm like, you can't be around me with sickness with my baby and stuff. And the Super Bowl and people wanted to watch. I don't know, something was happening last week. So we didn't play any games. I've been playing a lot of board games. We've been playing Azul. It's really fun, me and the wife.
I've been playing a lot of PC games because, my games have not been running. So I've been
reading a lot of Invisible Sun. But also, I've announced it. There's been little things on Twitter as well. But I'm running a stream. I'm going to stream a game. It's going to be like maybe a 8 or 9 month campaign, we're kind of thinking. I've got really awesome players. So Wednesdays on Nerd Immersion's Twitch channel, we're going to be playing Rod of the Seven Parts, which is a Greyhawk adventure that I am adapting into a Forgotten Realms adventure. It's going to be super fun. February 19th, 5:30 Pacific. Come watch us. It's going to be lots of fun. I have been prepping that. So I kind of wrote down a brief outline of where I think they're going to go and what I want them to do. And then I've got the first couple adventures planned. And we're actually going to meet this Wednesday. We're going to do like an informal just chat because I know most of them, but I realize they don't actually know each other very well. So we're going to be like, hey, it's a get to know you kind of thing.
Session zero.
Talk about Session Zero, talk about characters. We're not going to stream it, but we're going to talk about characters and kind of like, how are you going to be in the world, what motivates your character. So Jordan has an idea of things like that. We've been chatting a lot in Discord. It's been super fun. They're so excited for this, and I'm really stoked too. It's going to be lots of fun. But yeah, so I've been prepping my Rod of Seven Parts game a lot, reading through the original Greyhawk Adventure, 2nd edition, and then creating new monsters, creating new magic items, things like that, so that I have like a clear kind of direction for them to go. I think we're going to start in Neverwinter. I just kind of, I've always loved Neverwinter. And a lot of people were like, you should start in Waterdeep or you should start here. And I don't know, Baldur's Gate. And I'm like, we haven't had like a good Neverwinter. I'm going to start there. So we're going to do Neverwinter. And because this is a streamed game, I want it to be good because I get really nervous. Now, Lucian, you stream a lot of games. I get nervous and audiences spook me, which is weird because I do performance for a lot of my life and for a living and things like that. But the internet streaming is just odd sometimes, and I'm getting better about it. But like, do you even think about the audience, or do you just play a game for your friends and then stream it, kind of a thing?
Yeah. Just like this show. I mean, okay. I love interacting. I don't get nervous in any of that. It's also part of kind of my actual career, which is being in front of people and presenting and teaching and training and talking with them. And it could be groups of 4 to 10. I've been in front of groups of 250. I've been in front of groups of 1,000 and talked. That's something I realize lots of other people struggle with that, but it's not something I did. But the streaming thing for me is just, the only hard part for me was you're trying to juggle so many things as a dungeon master, because maybe you're doing like screen overlay stuff. Maybe you're switching between types of versions or camera angles that you want to do, but you're also trying to keep up with what the players are asking you and doing. You're keeping up with what you want your monsters to do or how they're reacting to what's going on. And there's like a million things. You're like already as a dungeon master, you have a lot to think about, and you throw some more stuff on top of that, which is I'm running a show or I'm producing my own show at the same time. But I find it very rewarding at the end of them. I find it really good that you can go back and watch them.
Yeah.
And they're like you're recording them. So that way you can always go back. Because right now, the only way we ever know about the old games that we play are just the stories we remember.
Yeah.
We'll be sitting around with our friends and we'll retell the tale of, do you remember when we fought that beholder? It was so cool and this and that. And sometimes that story is probably even better than it was, which is how we are. We all like to make our stories really
the fish I caught was this big.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But it's still cool to be able to go back and watch some of those old things. And maybe they're not as good a quality. Mine have never been as good a quality as like a Critical Role or a Matt Colville production. But I still had a lot of fun with those players.
Yeah.
And I still like being able to go back and saying, oh, yeah, I remember that in that episode. We did that weird thing and this fun thing happened. And
and cool. You're right. I have a son now. Little baby Oliver, love him to death, crying a lot less, so love him more than I did before. I was thinking about this as you were talking just now, that like that's actually something that if I do this year-long campaign, maybe when he's in his teens, he's gonna be like, well, Dad, you've been running games for me, but like, I don't know, like where did you start? And I can be like, oh, watch the, like here
you go.
You can watch, 37-year-old Jordan when you were just an infant running this really awesome game online, and it's there. And that's kind of cool too. So not necessarily trying to get famous off of this, but like I have had a lot of people who like the channel that they're like, run a game. And I've run one shots and stuff, but this will be my first like Forgotten Realms, on brand, running a really cool game. And it's modeled off of something that people know, but it's also my own thing. And that's what I really liked about it, is I have this rough outline of the Rod of Seven Parts, but I can throw in anything I want and they can go anywhere they want. And I told the players that I'm like, I want this to be your campaign just as much as it is mine. Where do you want to go in the Forgotten Realms? Like, we can go anywhere, really. So and they're going to start at level 5. We're going to try a little higher level campaign, and my goal is to get them to like 12 or 13. And so we'll see.
Yep. And I'm one of those nebulous who keeps bugging them, because I think, why not have the person who gives us all this knowledge about Forgotten Realms run a Forgotten Realms game? That'd be awesome. So our dreams have come true. We get to watch Jordan run a Forgotten Realms campaign. This is going to be good. It's
going to be really awesome. I'm really excited for it. So I've been doing that. I've also been reading a lot of my Invisible Sun books. And I have a book called The Secret Streets of Satyrine, I think it's called. And it's basically like, if you were going to run an Invisible Sun game in the city of Satyrine, here's NPCs and here's plot hooks and things like that. And again, steal like an artist. So I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, I like that NPC for my Rod of Seven Parts D&D game. I was like, oh, I like that. And I like this idea. And I've been stealing a lot of that. And I think I'm going to work in maybe NPCs, maybe other stuff. But it's just a robust world. It's really well thought out. Monty Cook makes such good stuff. He's such a good designer, especially with Invisible Sun. It's just designed really well. So I've been reading a lot of that. And then to finish out the thing, I bought a book the other day. I saw that you got something in the mail too. Do you want to talk about that first?
Yeah, I did get mine, Becoming AI RPG, that was done by Dylan Grinder. He was, if you remember, back in the days of earlier shows, he was running our game of Tomb Annihilation on his channel. And he also decided to write his own RPG. So he did a Kickstarter and did the whole thing, and I got that. And it's a really cool game, sci-fi.
What's it called again? So everybody
Becoming AI.
Becoming AI. So can I Google it and find it, or?
Probably.
Okay.
I would think so. I think it's on Drive-Thru RPG. If you would like to get it, I got my printed copy finally, hardbook copy, and I just really like this idea of indie people that are writing RPGs, that are putting stuff together, and it was a really fun kind of book, and it reminded me a lot of kind of the Monty Cook kind of stuff, and the nearish future, but maybe even far future ideas, and what kind of games could you run, from that aspect. So that was really cool. And I came home from Denver and had that in the mail, and I thought, oh, that's cool. It's always good to come home to one of your Kickstarters sitting on your desk. So that's always fun.
Yeah,
So, but
that
what was
sounds
the
awesome.
book you bought?
Friend of the show, Ben,
Yeah.
Questing Beast, he does really good
Questing Beast. He's
reviews.
such a good guy.
He's a really good guy. Yeah, you roomed with him at Gen Con.
I
He's really
did.
awesome.
He
Yeah,
was really good.
he's
Yeah, it
awesome.
was really funny.
He does the OSR, the old school Renaissance
Mm-hmm.
books, and so kind of these indie RPG books that really apply to a lot of different games, and I like those books a lot because
Springs Island.
they're just, I can use them for Dungeon Crawl Classics. I can use them for anything really. And again, it's about sparking that oh, I want to do this. It's really cool. So
Mm-hmm.
he came out with a book called, or not he, sorry, Ben reviewed a book called Magical Industrial Revolution. So if you go to Questing Beast on YouTube, you can find this, and he does a really good review. It's a book about, like, not post-apocalyptic, but if magical, if kind of, I think about Eberron, like if magic was used in a, not a magical way, but like, oh, I can summon a fire elemental to create this steam engine to work, and I don't know, things kind of like that. If we push that far enough, it kind of will implode in on itself. And this book is about it's a pre-apocalyptic setting, is kind of what it says about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's magical innovations and magic items and spells and rules for a magical industry, like how you would utilize magic in an industrial setting, kind of a thing. Monsters, tools for urban campaign settings. It just looked really, really neat. And it's on DriveThruRPG, and I'll put a link in both chats if you guys are interested in that. But I picked that up. Now, unfortunately, I bought it from their website, not from DriveThruRPG, and I bought the PDF and the print version, but I couldn't find a download for my PDF, so I contacted the company, and I'm like, when am I going to get this? And they're like, oh, we send out a download link when we mail out the print version. And I've never had a website do that. Every single time, it's like you buy it, you get the PDF immediately. So I'm a little like, oh, well, that stinks. So I have to wait till I get this, but I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be awesome. And
yeah, when I read Magical Industrial Revolution, my mind immediately jumps to Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, which is the. Well, I wonder if that was a play, like if they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea, because that's, I think, what really would happen with our world if it got magic, is we would industrialize it. We would say, oh, once we know the mechanics of it, the science of that magical spell, we're going to find a million ways to use it in a product of some sort.
No, and
we would totally.
I always think of, there's somebody has made plans for this out on the internet of, so if you put a bag of holding in a portable hole, it explodes, and there's a hole to, I think, the astral sea that you get sucked into. And somebody made an arrow that has a portable or a bag of holding attached to it, and that arrow gets shot into a portable hole that hits a target, and then that target gets sucked into the astral plane. And that's how human minds work.
That's how
they look at that and they're like, I don't want to make a spell that does that when I can. The effect of these two things does this. How can I turn that effect into a weapon or something like that? And so, and this book also has a mythical, or a city called Endon, or Endon, Endon, and that's another thing that I like. Where, like, kind of like Vorheim. I know we're angry at the guy who wrote Vorheim because he's not a good person, but. Vorheim and various other supplements like that, where you can kind of take these cities and plop them into your world, is kind of cool. So I don't know, it was really cool. And then, speaking of coming home to cool things, I got this book. It's big. Hang on, I got to take something out of it.
Oh, it looks big.
Oh, it's real big. So I got this book. Let me open up my thing so you can see. And this is Immersive Battle Maps by Yarrow Studios. And you can go to yarrowstudios.com and pick this up for not a lot of money. It's actually really affordable. And what it is it's maps. So I always open it to that one. I want to do this. And the book is designed, the book is designed to be laid flat on your table. And then this is gridded. So it's got 30 different maps in it. and you just plop it down, and then you have like a graveyard or a desert, or I don't know, what's a good one? Here's a boat, like a shipyard.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't fit on my shelf. That is my only complaint about it, because it is so big.
What is the size of that?
I don't know. Like, and then they gave me all these stickers that you can put on the dry erase things, spell effects, and there's like corpse, like you can lay down like here's where a body died or things like that.
That's why I love online games, because you can throw down those really cool backgrounds.
Yeah.
You can put really cool spell templates out, and you don't always get that at your home games. Sometimes your home games are great. You have everybody around you, you got your snacks on the table, but sometimes it devolves into squares and a marker, a dry erase marker, and it's all relying on how well you can draw something versus, you can put some really cool stuff on.
Yeah. So thank you, Yarrow Studios. I was really excited to get that and open it. It's really cool. You should check out their website. It's awesome, yarrowstudios.com. And I'm excited to use that because, like you said, it's really nice for me to just be like, oh, you guys want to go there? And then I can just plop down, you're there. It's really cool. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of city ones in there, or like towns and stuff that urban, I should say. And as my players go to the city of Gloomrot, I think I'm going to utilize a lot of those maps because I have them and they're really cool. So, man, this was fun. I'm just jazzed. I saw the coolest play last night, and my mom and my sister babysat, so me and the wife had a date, and I'm just like, I'm having just the best day. So, really excited. Thank you for coming out to the Saturday Morning D&D show, everybody. Really excited to have you. This was a lot of fun. Stay tuned for next week when we'll be back with another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D show. Congratulations again to our winner. We have mailed out the prizes, so you will get them shortly, and that will be awesome, and I hope he tweets a bunch of stuff out. What else? Anything else we need to say before we go?
Nope, I don't think there's anything. I think you got it all.
All right. You guys are awesome. Again, so happy to have the people live here watching us. Thank you again. And we will see you next week with another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D show. Goodbye, everybody. Take care.